my name is Zoe Conrad. I am one of the hosts of Nextet, and this is behind the scenes of Nextet.
I am Logan. I am primarily doing a lot of the video editing and things like that. Like I'll be editing this video together, which will be fun.
So, hi, I'm Jennifer Beller, and I'm the artistic director, and I'm so excited to have such a wonderful team this semester. And along with Logan, I do the editing for the faculty spotlight episodes and a lot of the other behind the scenes stuff.
So my name is John Rose. I am my position as of right now has been primarily as prepping for performances of new music, but also as helping organize some of the social media along with others.
Okay, hi, my name is Brittany, and my job is to help contact everyone for performances, getting information like maybe program notes, getting headshots, and things like that.
Hey, I'm Molly Redfield, and I do logistics, so sending emails and setting up meetings like this one today.
And I'm Michaela. I have been doing design.
Ricky, and I'm actually new to the team, so my job as of right now is to just help Michaela with stuff like designs and artwork and all stuff regarding that. So
hi, my name is Josiah Seitzma, and I do PR and social media for the composition division at UNLV, and I also serve as a liaison between the composition division and between Nextet.
So now that we know who and what everybody does, I have some fun questions and some music-related questions. Which ones do you want first?
Yeah, let's go music before we get off topic with fun ones.
I have so many. Okay, what has Nextet taught you?
I remember in my undergrad, since I went to UNLV, Nextet, they were always a performance that I would remember. Because, I don't know, new music. I can't tell you any of the other, like, convocations or even some, well, maybe I can't tell you some of the concerts I've been to, but I can tell you about every Nextet I've been to. So.
And even like dipping into some composition stuff, like it's nice to know that there really doesn't have to be a boundary or a line that you have to stay behind. Like, oh, I will only write classical, and oh, I will only write jazz, or whatever like your discipline is. And new music really encompasses that. You know, there's third stream, you can even have like house music, and there's just so many things that you can incorporate into your compositions. And new music takes off those boxes that you have to put yourself in as a writer, performer, listener, and it's just music, pure music. And that can be anything to you and anything that means.
Something that I think sort of focusing on more being part of the team behind it as opposed to any of the actual music related part of it, being behind the scenes, it's interesting to see how concerts get produced from this end and the things about what you need to know. And that's been really interesting because it forces you to think about what you're doing in a different way. And so like going into the future as a composer, if you're going to have a concert performed, all of a sudden now you know from their end what they're going to need and the things they're going to ask for. You can be proactive about that. You can work with them a little bit more and like speak their language, if that makes sense.
When I was a student composer, I did a lot of work behind the scenes with various student organizations to create concerts. And that was the time when I really learned, oh my goodness, deadlines, right? And we have to make sure that everyone does their part. And it really does, Logan, make you think about stuff in a different way when you are putting all of that together.
What is everyone working on? Because not all of us are composers, but a lot of us are into new music. So what are you working on?
I'm currently working on a piece by a violist named Kenji Bunch, fairly well known in the viola sphere. It's a piece entitled, I'm working on it for the student spotlight or for the Nextet team spotlight concert that we're going to be posting at a later date. It's entitled 3 Gs, written for scordatura viola. So, like the title states, you tune two of your strings. So the normal order of strings from lowest to highest, of course, is C, G, D, A. With this specific tuning, you have a low G, you keep the regular G, then you have a D string, you keep the D string, and then you tune the A string down to a G string. And this is based on Appalachian fiddling music that they would tune their strings to 3 D strings on a violin. And so on a viola, it would be the equivalent of 3 G strings. And so it allows you to achieve certain intervals and certain colors that are very a lot more rustic, and it comes out with this fiddling, almost like a fiddle rock vibe on viola.
You switch
It's
out
very
your strings
very
for
interesting.
that?
What was that?
Do you switch out your strings for that, like to B G
No,
strings, or
it's tuning. So you tune the C string down to a low G, and then keep the G string, keep the D string, tune the A string down a step to another G.
that's cool.
It offers some interesting challenges too, because when your C string is that loose, certain amounts of pressure will alter the pitch, and so then you run into issues of how much pressure am I putting? Do I alter the tuning so then I put it just a slightly flat, so then when I press down at normal weight, it'll raise the pitch just a little bit? And there's all these interesting challenges that it brings out. Also, strings have memory. So when you have a string tuned to a G string, like when you have it normally tuned to what it is, it sits at a certain point and it tends to remember that. So you tune it down, all of a sudden it wants to bounce back, and the string players in here will understand. It's like when you're first breaking in a set of new strings. It's a lot of fun.
I play both upright bass, which my mic is covering it, but it's right there. But also I play guitar, and I've done down-tuned guitar, and those low strings, once you start lowering them even further, they get super floppy. And so I can imagine that's a weird thing to play with a bow.
It's a weird thing to play with, but also even reading it, because in order to read the notation, you have to the notation is written so then you would read it as if you were just playing normally tuned strings. So it probably drives people with perfect pitch nuts. But there's some interesting problem solving that comes in with writing for scordatura, is what we call it.
So we have quite a few violists in Nextet this semester, which is exciting. So Michaela, what are you working on?
I'm revisiting Rebecca Clark's sonata. I played it in undergrad and I put it on my junior recital, but I'm a lot smarter now than I was back then. So I'm reworking Rebecca Clark, and sorry, I'm distracted. In that, like, I decided that I wanted to, I'm still trying to work it out, make it work. If it works, it'll be so cool. I'm trying to do an all women concert, no male composers. That would be hard to do if I played viola, and it's more hard, violin, if I play viola. It's more hard to find literature for viola. So I know I have Rebecca Clark for a fact. And then I have started a Nancy Van de Vaart piece, which I was hoping, because she's still alive, I'm hoping that I can put that sonata on a concert in the future. It's really cool. There's a part where I get to whistle. And so, yeah, those two are my main ones right now. And then I was thinking of Fanny Mendelssohn has some like vocal pieces, just getting one in my range and learning that on viola, because it seems to be at this point, if I'm gonna do like, if I can like carry this idea out, I'll have to do some arrangements. So it's a little up in the air, but that's what I'm trying to make work. My recital isn't until next semester. So I'm allowing myself all the time between now and then to make it happen.
Michaela, if
Yeah.
you're interested, Molly, if you know who Molly Gabriel is,
No,
she's
I don't.
she's the viola professor at University of Arizona in Tucson, and she and a group of other violists put together. They compiled a list over the summer of music written for viola by female composers and composers of color.
That's what
And yeah, if you go on to Viola Society of the United States, they have a Facebook page. You find her; she's one of the moderators of the Facebook page. Or yeah, Molly Gabriel, and she's on Facebook, or you can email her or something like that. Yeah, she's got an entire compiled list just in I think it's just a Google Doc.
That is so. I'm so glad I said this. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now it's not if it'll happen. It will happen.
So before we move on to the student composers and asking about what you guys are working on, Molly, why don't you tell us what you are doing right now?
Sure. So the whole reason why Michaela's here is because I wrote a piece that has string quartet with jazz quartet, and then since I'm a bassist, I actually go between the two groups. So it becomes a string quintet at times, and then it goes back into being a quartet. And so Michaela was actually here using the recording booth that I built in my house to record the viola part. And aside from that project, I actually just wrote, it's gonna sound really weird when I say it out loud, but basically it's a really old standard called Moonglow. And I reharmonized it, and then I put a hip hop feel in the drums in double time, and then over the top is actually a bass line that is a funk line, and actually some of it you can actually hear on a Bruno Mars chart. And then there's it's like a vocal duet with jazz trio, but with guitar instead of piano. So that's the composition I'm working on right now, and it just blends neo soul, hip hop, funk, and then you have this standardized jazz piece on top.
Sounds so cool. When are we going to hear it?
Well, actually,
You guys want to hear it right
I was gonna say, I'm gonna pull it out right now.
Here's my viola.
So the classical piece, if everything goes right, or the octet, I'll just call it that, will be premiering on a November 12th here with Nextet, and you'll hear it again on my recital, which is December something. It's the first week. The date is not finalized, that's why it's a something, but it's that first week in December, and it's going to be a YouTube live. And then the neo soul hip hop thing, we're recording starting next week. So I'm just in the process of laying down the logic tracks, and it's this distanced recording of that as well. So that'll probably be up we have to have it done by October 26th. So deadlines are everything in pandemic world. So yeah, those are my newest endeavors.
So I've been working on a couple of things, actually. The main one is this sort of theme and variations piece that I've been working on just in my private lessons and stuff. And funny story, it started as a string quintet because I play in a string quintet, and it was for our players and whatever. And then at one point during our lesson, Dr. Ballard was like, "Here, let me just play the harmony on my organ for a second, just to see how we're doing and check some things." And I was like, "Yeah,
Pump organ."
Yeah, you're. And she was like, "Let me just check some of these harmonies and stuff." And basically, we ended up both looking at each other and just being like, "This piece needs to be played on some kind of organ, doesn't it?" And we were just both like, yeah, no, this is what it needs. So it ended up switching to, it's probably going to be on an electric organ, just based off of my keyboard that I have here. It was just so funny how we both just instantly knew as soon as it was played that it needed that.
See, it's kind of cool that these things happen, because if you were just playing it, or if I was playing it on the piano in my office at UNLV, we may have not had that realization. So in some ways, teaching from home, it's really fun. Yeah.
Okay, so I've spent all of this semester writing 2 pieces for choir, which is completely new to me. and I loved it. So that's a new thing that I can do now. And then I've started a third piece for Perot Ensemble. So that's also a new thing. So this semester has just been like me experimenting with like things I've never written for.
So right now, the main project I'm focusing on is actually a string quartet for the orchestration class, which I'm like trying really hard on right now, and it's kind of stressful, but I am trying my hardest to do it. And then the main thing for me this semester is I've been feeling kind of like stuck in a little like rut regarding composition, and where like since we're staying at home so long and it's been like 7 months of quarantine basically lately, it's hard like to get creativity flowing when I'm just stuck in the same space forever. But then it has to come out because deadlines in school, it has something has to happen. So it's just forcing music out right now. It's basically what's happening.
I relate to that. I have to come up with a new song every week for Dr. Clements, so just keep pumping it out. Just keep going.
How has it been creatively for all of you guys? I mean, given what Ricky's talked about, like especially, we're doing everything from home, or most of everything from home. I think some of you are actually also experiencing the hybrid teaching. Is that correct? So, what is that like for everybody right now?
It's interesting because I'm entirely online. I'm living in Minnesota. I'm not even in Las Vegas. So I think what helped a lot was I took so I'm doing my master's at UNLV. I finished my undergraduate in 2019, and so I took a gap year prepping auditions and stuff like that. And so I already was getting really used to practicing in my living room and and stuff like that. And it like half of it is just having a creative space and reserving that space for these specific times and really pacing yourself to just be creative in the space that you're given versus going to your practice room where everything is done for a specific purpose. It's so distracting practicing at home, and it was for several months. And I think I was lucky that I had the year to adapt to that instead of flipping on a dime. But I can definitely understand how horribly distracting it is for everyone right now to do all this stuff from home. I don't understand how people do get their degrees online. It's very hard.
I'm gonna also go with exactly what Ricky and Zoe were talking about, just with what they were working on. That over the summer, I did a very similar thing of trying to write like a short piece in like a completely different style every month, and it was exactly that. Where if you just keep forcing yourself to do it, at some point you'll end up being creative. That like you just have to. It's that thing where like when you have the time slot reserved at the practice room, it's really easy to go in there and you're forced to do something. You're forced to work on what you were there to work on. But like when you're at home, you have to do it for yourself. You have to force yourself to go in and actually sit down at your piano or at your instrument or whatever. And you have to do that for yourself, which is really weird.
Well, I was just thinking about saying something actually in response to that, because my difficulties have been similar, but my situation is kind of reversed. So I'm a saxophone player. I'm in my first year of my DMA. And as a saxophone player, especially running through classical repertoire and all of these different things and new saxophone music, which can be very loud and interesting, there's just almost no option of practicing at home if you're in a small apartment. And the struggle for me has been, I'm sure trumpet players, everyone else with a loud, sonorous instrument will be going through the same thing. And so fortunately at UNLV, for those of us who don't have any spot to play or practice our craft, they've doled out some practice rooms to be checked out. And so now it's kind of the reverse of what Logan was just talking about, in that I have exactly 3 hours in the same spot every day in which to work on all the stuff I have to get done, and it's great to get there and have that forced time. It eliminates distraction. So in that way, it's been kind of nice to have the time and forced motivation.
Mhm.
I will say I have so much more time on my hands when I am doing school online at home, and I'm not walking to classes. I'm not like everything is just one Zoom call away. Like it's in that way, it's amazing to think about how much time we spend just walking across the campus. And that's one of the main things I've known. I'm like, I've got at least a few extra hours a day that I have no idea what to do with, because I'd normally just be walking somewhere. And so it's in a way, there's positives and negatives to everything, and I think that's one of them. Time efficiency is amazing, but also time efficiency in classes is also partially affected by teachers having to adapt to a Zoom platform versus having a whiteboard that they could just write everything on just instinctively.
It certainly took a lot of time for me right now, because I spent, I think, 3.5 weeks creating all the oral skills materials for my theory class back in August. And I used to be able to just walk in the classroom and just play at the piano or start singing, and now I can't. I have to prepare everything well in advance. But actually, in some ways, it made me more organized. And also, one of the things I wanted to mention too, what you said, John, about how much like efficiency and everything. It's really great because now I get to wake up in the morning and go for a run, and then I can hop on a Zoom call and no one can even tell I just went for a run. And I don't have to worry about, spending all that gas money driving to work. So
There have been classes where I have literally rolled out of bed, like still in pajamas, just sat down, opened the laptop, kept my camera off the whole time, and no one who would know. It's been so that has been nice. I got to wake up later this semester.
So on that note, while we are all working over the duration of quarantine, other than your musicianship, what else are you working on?
I'll start this one too. Fitness, for sure. Since March and the start of the quarantine, I officially jumped over the lost 50 pounds mark. So that's where we are.
Very good job, because I'm in the opposite camp. I'm eating more, man. I feel like I'm hungry all of the time. And that might be the fact that I am just in a house full of food the whole time.
Yeah, in my camp, I've been focusing on, in addition to music and doing my master's degree, I've been focusing on my other hobbies more than I normally would have time for. So I'm working with a friend. I love technology, and we're building a computer, and I'm looking forward to doing that for the first time. Been meaning to do it for years and just never had the time to do it.
I've been working on. The reason I am a composer is just because in general I am just a maker of things. So there have been so many projects I've been putting off for so long that I was like, well, now I'm locked inside for months on end, so might as well. I have made, I don't know, all sorts of stuff. I have made I'm working on a model train table. I made that map from Pirates of the Caribbean with all the spinning circles that line up and do different things. I'm making a Halloween costume right now. I started learning how to do CGI on my computer.
Halloween costume. Can't just breeze past that.
I'm gonna be Kylo Ren.
Oh, cool.
Halloween costumes, everyone. So I bought very impulsively, so it's online shopping. I bought a Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland costume. I'm very excited to wear it.
I've always been really lame at Halloween. I never really dress up. And if I do, it's very poorly done. Like my friend and I, we once for a Halloween, we're both really big fans of Doctor Who. So he and I got together, and there's a reference from Doctor Who where you make tally marks in like marker on your arm. And so we just did that throughout the night and just kept adding more and more with like erasable, like washable markers, like all like on our skin, on our face. If you like the show, if you know the show, you'd get it, but it's really low budget, low effort. I've always been kind of that way.
Doctor Who is the reason I actually own a trench coat now, because I was the doctor for Halloween back in like middle school.
So wait, what is everybody's costume for Halloween? If you have a costume. You don't have a costume.
I usually dress up. I haven't found the inspiration yet this year. Usually something will hit me, or it's something I'm nerding out about at that current time. But
from what I understand, in Minnesota, Halloween is canceled. Pretty much. And there's going to be very, very, very little trick-or-treating here, if any. And depending on the weather, that is usually the case anyway. So last year we already had 6 inches of snow on the ground by Halloween, because we had a blizzard at the beginning of October. We had a blizzard. So
I'm originally from Wyoming, and back home they got their first touch of snow second week of September this year.
Yep.
So,
yep.
I'm happy to be in Vegas very much.
Well,
here it's on track to be like, it's on track to be over 90. Like it could even hit 100 still by Halloween, and that's fun for me. Layers of black.
I come from blizzard country. Bring it on.
As a person who, as soon as it gets over 100, I start melting. I'm kind of glad to be in Minnesota.
Zoe, can we wear Halloween costumes for my podcast episode?
You assume that we're not gonna do that. Yes.
I love that was phrased as a question. Like, why would the answer ever be no? Wear a Halloween. We should have worn Halloween costumes for this one. Like,
I have so many costumes, it's ridiculous. So it's not a question of what am I gonna be, it's which one am I gonna be.
Maybe you can wear them all. Just
all at once.
Costumes.
Yeah.
I'm a vampire zombie warrior princess. Gosh.
I did last year. I actually did the week leading up to Halloween. I wore a different costume every day.
Also, Zoe, I'm pretty sure that's already a thing. So,
and Zoe, you can't do vampire warrior princess because I've already got that one this year. So, we're taken care of.
Dang, we can't twin.
I mean, if we twin, that's like the plot for a new anime. So we got to be careful with that.
Oh no.
I don't know what I'm gonna be because I don't know, whatever. But my dog, he has many costumes. Not that anyone cares, but look, this is him as a shark. He was laying down. I was at a rehearsal that day, but he was a shark. And wait, do you guys even want to? I don't know. Here's him as a violinist.
Making my dog jealous.
Let's see. I don't have a picture of his pumpkin costume. No. This is him dressed up for a recital, wearing a tie. Anyway, so my dog.
You will need to send me all of those photos because I will edit them on a full size onto the screen, and everyone can revel in the adorableness that is that dog.
The dog that's been in the video is a different dog.
Oh my gosh, this dog. Oh my gosh, you have to get her. She should be a sponge for Halloween.
We don't know yet. Her name is Lilo, so we thought of dressing her up as a hula girl. But she's only 5 months and she's too small to fit into anything. And so, but we have like a hipster jacket and we have a cactus shirt. And yeah, this is Lilo. Newest addition to the fan band. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's what quarantine's been all about, adapting. I'm not gonna have a costume.
And adopting.
And yes. I'm I'm not gonna have a costume, but my dog will. And he will be in all the lectures. Wait, what day of the week is it?
What day of the week
it a
is
weekday
Halloween?
or is it a weekend?
It's a Saturday.
Weekend.
Saturday, yeah.
We have no class on Monday and Tuesday.
Leading up, he's gonna be in all the lectures as a pumpkin, as a shark, he has a cow costume.
That's how you get A's, right? You show off your dog to your professor, and then they just.
Yeah, right.
I think that's how that works.
Extra credit.
Extra credit.
That happened in my 213 with Dr. Vega. My cat was in the background and meowed, and he was just like, "Kitty!" So I had to like bring out my cat. It was a good time. It was a good time. I think teachers have probably gotten more familiar with their students' pets than they ever expected to during this quarantine.
No, we have 3 cats in my household, and they they meow uncontrollably if you are not giving them attention every 10 seconds. So that's kind of what my classes are like.
My dog is terrified of the computer, so I make sure she's out of the room because she will bark uncontrollably. But it's so funny because her bark is worse than her bite. Every time she meets somebody new, she will bark uncontrollably, but the minute they go, "Oh, let me pet you," she runs to the other side of the room. She's like, "Oh, I'm gonna act all tough. You're gonna touch me? No." So like quarantine now.
Just a side note, my dog got worse behaved in quarantine, like, because he's a rescue dog. He was already an anxious dog, and he would bark, if he didn't know someone. But once he got to know them, he was fine. In quarantine, he will bark at anyone now, especially joggers. Wait, why am I telling you this? he got worse. Like, yeah, that was the thesis was he got worse because he's interacting way less. Maybe that's what's happening to me.
This is the first time we've seen each other in like 9 months.
I know, it's only...
So as we were recording today, when the computer was buffering, we took that to be an extra, so 20 minutes each time to catch up. So
there's no other GAs in my house, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No
So we
one gets it.
were reflecting on the fact that social is part of school. Like John, you mentioned earlier, like going on a walk, that's no longer part of my day, that saves time. That was like the highlight of my day. Like going with Max to Starbucks to just talk about like, can you believe this happened? Which anyone else, if you said that to, would be like, it's just making copies, get over it. But like when you're GA, there's just this camaraderie and this get a Starbucks, talk about your day.
Grad student interaction, I missed that.
Yeah.
No offense.
No offense to the undergrads. There's just something about
to the babies.
Yeah, to the like we're all going through this together, and I found out like back-to-back masters in DMA, like that part's I think missing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that helped me get through school plus school. This is like my 20th year of school straight. And so, I think that kind of wears down. So I miss my walks to Starbucks, my dear friend Max.
I do too, and that social interaction coupled with a caffeine dependency is something I really makes those walks to Starbucks really beneficial.
My caffeine dependency hasn't changed one bit
Mine's
throughout
worse.
this whole thing. But yeah, it's worse. Mine's gotten so much worse.
Okay, so we're already on this topic. We've already gotten to way away from music. So other than music, what is something that you're interested in or that you want to learn more about or that's a hobby of yours that you find interesting?
I can talk about this all day. Because I've gotten to the point, I love music. I love it. It's my life. I live, breathe. But sometimes, you play stuff that you don't want to play, or, a rehearsal you play with people you don't want to play with, timing, it gets overwhelming. And when it's something so near and dear, it's extra, it's sad when you get the burnout. So yeah, I spent like the first couple months of quarantine kind of recovering from a burnout, sort of, because I'm older than a couple of you, but I'm at the point where I don't have a part-time job anymore. Gigging is how I made money, teaching lessons, all that stuff. And so when what used to be a hobby becomes your job, you know, it's messy. So I was, for real, like kind of at a boiling point before we went into quarantine. And yeah, because of that, I stepped away from, because, you know, now I don't, yeah, I had more time. I stepped away a little bit and was really only playing for my lessons, you know? In that, I was able to like reacquaint myself with the stuff I used to love doing, because I don't know, I have a lot of hobbies. I'm not very academic brained, a little more hands-on. So I got into, I've always been drawing. That's on the back burner. I was doing clay. I started working out. Oh my gosh, I love to cook, so I've been cooking more than ever. And then I got it out of my system doing all this stuff. Now I freaking love just playing viola for fun, you know? And I was losing that, you know, just always busy, straight from school to a lesson, maybe more school, homework, had to practice. And then at 10 o'clock at night, I had my casino gig, you know, get home at 2 a.m., wake up late the next day.
Don't teach a lesson.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, I think doing those other things has helped me fall back in love with music, which is weird because I was doing it for a couple months to avoid the feelings that music had given me at the time. So I don't know.
I went through the same thing. I got into paddleboarding. I got into yoga on paddleboarding too.
What?
Which, yeah, like Las Vegas was doing that for a while. And then I got into hiking, lots of hiking. Every weekend on Saturday I go hiking because I found out if you go to Mount Charleston, there is no internet. And so people can't send you emails. So I got into that, and it's cooler up there, about by 40 degrees.
Oh my gosh.
I got into researching a lot. So hopefully, knock on wood, I'm about to get a paper published, my first one. I know, it's a big moment for everyone. I know, thank you. So it's exciting and it's fun, and same thing with Michaela. I took a hiatus from bass, and I think that was the healthiest thing for my relationship with bass that I could have had, because yeah, there comes a point when music takes over as your career, and it was a big pivot moment as I picked it back up and was like, I love this music again. I'm doing the right thing, and I find myself practicing, and I don't have to convince myself or be like, well, I have that rehearsal later, and yeah, it's like a full circle.
I had the same thing right after my undergrad. I didn't go through this during quarantine, but I just was so sick of academics. just everything involved. It was just a total burnout, and I was one of those people. If I go to grad school this next year, I'll fail. I'll do it. I have no motivation. I don't have anything I don't have anything pushing me to do what I want to do. And so I took a whole year. And not that I wasn't playing viola for a year, because I was preparing for auditions as well, but I wasn't, practicing 3-4 hours a day and like intensively working on all of these etudes and worrying about juries and stuff like that. I was working, I was catching up on my hobbies. I was playing so many more video games, all of the video games that I couldn't play during my undergraduate because I didn't have time. I got into cooking too, which that no one saw that coming. It's one of those things. So as much as we love music, and I feel like everyone has this. This is why vacations are so important. At a certain point, the things that you really love to do start to become a chore. And that a couple months, don't have to take a whole year like I did, but just some time to really figure out what your priorities are again. And you know, oftentimes you'll surprise yourself. You'll come right back to it.
Well, speaking of the pandemic, once this quarantine is over, what would everybody like to do? First thing out of quarantine.
Walk into a store without wearing a mask. I don't know, something like that. There's something like, I understand, like the masks are essential, so important. I think they are getting a little bit on everybody's nerves though, to a certain degree. But yeah.
Michaela, you and I talked about this over the summer. I mean, wearing a mask can hide your facial expressions, and sometimes that can be very, very helpful.
I worked as a barista. Oh, sorry. I worked as a barista for a little bit at the beginning of the pandemic, and that was an interesting thing to be able to accomplish. Or like, we're always needing to be smiling customer service and stuff like that. And it was, I'm like, I don't have to pretend to be happy. No, no. At 6 o'clock in the morning on a Friday.
I was gonna say, I'm the type of person, I like to just stick in headphones and be like rocking out the whole time and like not talk to anybody. But one thing I like to do is I like to mouth along and like sing along silently to the music, which always in public makes you look like you're crazy and you're talking to yourself. So now that I completely cover my mouth, who's gonna know? And so I've been doing that a lot. You'll notice that my chin's moving up and down. It's like, oh, he's probably just breathing, and I am not.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm gonna continue a lot of the quarantine lifestyle.
Committee meetings are awesome.
This was kind of me before we had to do it, and now I'm solidified. I'm sleeping better, I'm sleeping more, I don't have to see people. So, but short anecdote. I had a gig, and a couple weeks ago, before that gig we had a rehearsal. That rehearsal, like, I was already fine with the the being at home situation. That rehearsal, playing with humans, being in the room with humans, oh, the music was, cheesy, as a lot of corporate events are. But even the cheesy music, it felt so good to play with other people. So the number one thing I'm looking forward to when we can perform together is, just chamber music, interaction, like music interaction.
Yeah, like 3 weeks ago, I started. So my recital is like some are going to be in person that are recorded if they're under 3 people, and then some are these distance recordings. So I met up with actually who was my teacher when I was a cellist at like age 5, Moonlight Tran, and we were playing the Rossini duo together. I got such an adrenaline rush off of a rehearsal. And like back in the day, a year ago, I would have just like gone through the motions, been like, yeah, this is fine, sounds good, it's a professional, this is great. But man, it was like getting off the stage of a huge, like playing for a huge crowd. It had the same feeling. It's like the first time, and you don't care. It's the first rehearsal. So of course there were mistakes and we were taking it way under tempo. And anytime in the past I would have looked back and been like, well, hopefully that gets better. But man, it was such an adrenaline rush. And even today, like when Michaela was recording, she could hear like everyone else playing. And it was the same thing. Like the first thing Michaela said when she took off her headphones was, oh my God, playing with real people, even though none of them are there. But still, like, it's just, I'm looking forward to being with people and playing with people and to have those moments where I get to play for huge crowds again.
And it's the little things too, just like breathing before a phrase.
And everyone breathes with you?
Yes.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah, I miss that. I don't miss.
Yeah, I've got a similar thing coming up. Like I have a gig in November, and I just can't wait. Like I haven't played with real people since like March. And I mean, I did some online festivals and things like that where we recorded some chamber music at a distance, and that's a very interesting experience. But yeah, it's just human interaction is going to be nice. I love staying inside. I do. I stay inside a lot, even beforehand. But this will I just can't wait to play with other humans again.
I'm gonna second or third that also, and getting back and doing music with other people. And for me, it's I'm most excited to get back to giving and receiving lessons in person, because my goodness, I had the saxophone professor here, Dr. Pennock, was able to secure the recital hall at UNLV for a whole day of lessons with all of her students. So everyone who could make it for a time got an in-person lesson across the hall. But even being across the hall from somebody live, the amount of feedback you can get about the minute, the facial mask muscles, like things, oh, I can see what's happening with your jaw. I can see, just hearing sound more clearly. It's so much more effective. And Zoom has proved more effective for lessons really than I thought it would be, especially if you have a good mic. But man, the amount of feedback you can get in person and the amount of detail, I miss that, and I'm looking forward to it.
Michaela brought up something that was especially funny to me, because you were talking about how even if the music is cheesy, just playing it with people. Because like I really am, now that you're mentioning, I'm really excited about getting back with my ensemble. We're gonna play Pachelbel's Canon in D for the 10 millionth time in a row, and I'm a bass player, so it's going to be horrible. But at the same time, we get to have so much fun that, like, being in person. A few semesters ago, one of the things that we did was I played the bass line along with the pianist, played the bass line in the style of Keyboard Cat, and just being able to do something like that, just off the cuff, randomly, without any preparation, is going to be so much more fun than, like, we recorded stuff, but you have to do everything correctly, and it's going to be so much fun to be able to do things wrong again.
Cheesy gigs are the best gigs. Never knock cheesy gigs. Almost all of my favorite performances were accompanied by the book Christmas Jazz Favorites #2. So
the cheesy gigs pay really well.
They pay really well.
I'm not ready to say they're better. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's different when you're a girl, but cheesy gigs come with cheesy outfits. Cheesy situation.
I'm 6 feet tall, and being Santa's elf playing the bass just never looks right. So I agree with that.
I can't wait to play another string quartet again. Like there's nothing I love more than playing chamber music. Like symphony orchestra is great, but chamber music is the most intimate and just wonderful experience to perform with other individuals. And when you're with a quartet that you've been with for years, there's just a special connection that you have there it's so hard to achieve that with a symphony orchestra.
I must admit though, so the other rehearsal I started last week was the Schulhof trio. And we have to keep 6 feet separate in one of the largest rehearsal halls of UNLV. It looks like a seance circle, honestly. And you can't hear the same way. There's something about, I don't know, maybe it's something string players do. We sit really close to each other.
I feel like we're trained to.
Yeah, and so...
The stands. There's music on a stand.
Yeah, we're very close. And so, I don't know, it was just interesting. Like, I realized I almost made a comment to the violist about, like, you're not playing loud enough. And then I realized she's like 7 feet away from me. And I really have all I can hear is myself and then the flute player. And then I realized she's probably playing perfectly. Dynamics and everything is probably being executed perfectly. But like 6 to 9 feet apart really I don't know. It's not the same. So I'm looking forward to that
audience distance. That's like the distance that audiences will be from you. That's not where other players are supposed to be.
Yeah,
they're supposed to be right there.
I feel like there are audiences closer to me at times. But we all looked at each other this last rehearsal and we're like, wow, what's going to happen when we put this in Doc Rando? And then you get the acoustics coming back on top of the inability to hear each other. it's very interesting. It's a different time. Preparing pieces takes 3 times as long, and you have to hope that what you're hearing is not what everyone else is hearing. Balance wise, articulation wise, it's a whole new world. So when we do go to chamber, as I've kind of had this window into, I hope it still has that intimacy eventually. That, yeah, John, it's something that we all live for. Again, it's that adrenaline rush. It's that I know exactly what you're going to play, when you're going to play, even though it's not maybe perfectly in time, because we're just all in that moment. And I hope that returns. And I hope that can still happen.
I don't know about anybody else, but I have spent a lot more money than normal buying new chamber pieces that I can't play yet, just in anticipation of when this is all over. So my wallet has gotten lighter, but my dreams are high.
So this has been Behind the Scenes with Nextet. Now that you've met our team, make sure you follow all of them on their social medias, and you follow the podcast, because that's a lot of fun. We will see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 Is that a good soundbite? I think.
That was inspirational.